Welcome back. It's time to introduce our special guest, Christine DiBona Lobley, Executive Director of Fred's Footsteps. Welcome.
Thank you.
I guess first off, tell us about your organization, how you founded, your story a little bit.
So we founded Fred's Footsteps 10 years ago. My father was G. Fred DiBona Jr. He was the president and CEO of Independence Blue Cross, and he passed away at age 53 from kidney cancer. And in those days following his death, what our family found was that so many people were coming to us and telling us stories about how he offered a word of encouragement or showed them some sort of kindness that they had carried with them for a long time. And a lot of people were saying they wanted to give in his honor. So we decided to start Fred's Footsteps to keep his memory alive. And also to help the community in the ways that he helped the community when he was alive. We knew at the time that we wanted to combine his two biggest passions for children and healthcare. So we set our mission to help working families in the Philadelphia community and 16 counties surrounding Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Delaware, to help working families through a child's illness. And basically to help them stay on their feet during that time and show them the kindness that he showed to so many people and enable them to work through their child's illness and not be in complete financial ruins when they come out the other side of it.
That's great.
So Chris, I'm familiar with the charity. It's amazing that it's almost a safety net for a group that really has no other avenue to go to. Explain a little bit about the kinds of families that you try and help.
And that's exactly what, when we started the organization and thought about what we wanted to do, those were the kinds of people that we wanted to help. My dad always loved people who were just hard workers and down on their luck. So those are the people that we work with. And what we found is that they've contributed to society their entire lives, and they've worked hard. And then when they hit a point where they need some help, many other organizations or the government aren't there for them, and they made too much money, or they fall into a higher income bracket. So what we're really trying to do is help them avoid getting to the point where they do qualify for that type of government assistance, and their home is in foreclosure and they do qualify for the programs, because we'd rather that they stay above water during that time and go back to their lives the way they were before.
You had told me a story once of where one of your families knew they needed to downsize. They knew they had two working parents, a child had gotten very sick. It was a chronic sickness that they needed to take care of. One parent would have to come out of the workforce. They knew they had to downsize, but they couldn't sell their home?
Yes, they were falling quickly behind on their bills. Their daughter was probably about a year old, and they knew that mom was not going to be able to go into the workforce. And they had started to plan for that, but at the same time, the mortgage was piling up, and they wanted to get out from under their house at that time instead of having it foreclosed on. So we helped them to pay their mortgage while they had the house on the market, and they were able to get a good price for it and get into more affordable housing so that they didn't have this lifelong cycle of debt and a foreclosure on their credit forever.
Right.
And they got into something that's more affordable and got into their new normal.
Right.
How do you find the people, or do they find you?
So we have relationships with the area hospitals, CHOP and DuPont, and lots of other children's hospitals, and their social workers there have a great relationship with us and refer families into the program. So they'll let us know that a great family needs some assistance, and the family, along with their social worker, will put in an application. And we have an incredibly qualified grant advisory committee that goes through those applications and looks at the best ways to help those families. And sometimes it even means more than they asked for. We'll see an application and they'll ask. They're really just great people who don't want to take advantage, but will say they're asking for 1 month of rent and they could really use 2. Mm-hmm. And it's really a great surprise to them that somebody recognized that their needs are even higher than they humbly asked for.
I mean, that must be a hard job, right? I'm sure all the stories are very sad. How did they decide, who gets help? And
All the stories are very sad, and we've been in a great position to really be able to help, I would say, almost 100% of the applications that qualify for assistance. So one of the big things we look at is the financial stress related to the child's illness. So that's really the biggest judgment factor there is it other factors, or is it really the child's illness, and can the funding that we give them make a difference? One of the things that we decided early on was that we were going to help less families but with a larger dollar amount. So we help families for up to 1 year or up to $10,000. And we just really wanted to be able to make a deeper impact on families. But we've been in a great situation and have a really great donor base, so that we have been able to fund most of the families that come to us that qualify.
So talk about that. It's 10 years. There are a lot of charities that are started in the memory of really wonderful people. This charity not only has survived, but is flourishing. Talk about that success and the factors you see that led to that.
I think one of the biggest factors that led to that was that in the very beginning we put together our board of directors. We have a fabulous board of directors, and they're business people. And we really looked at it as they were passionate about what we were trying to do, and when we were forming the mission, they really felt passionate about the mission as well. But I think so many charities don't think about running their charity as a business, and especially small and medium-sized charities, because money is always tight and you're always looking for the next donation. But we really decided early on that we needed to run our organization like a business.
What are some examples of doing
So
that?
some examples of that are that we really invest in our infrastructure. We make sure that the decisions that we're making are not just current decisions for
So strategic planning.
Strategic planning. I think it's hard for a lot of organizations too, because you're thinking about cash flow, and we want to when thinking about cash flow, it's easy for it to just go for the next grant that seems like the low-hanging fruit, even if you have to creep the mission a little bit. And we've been very cognizant that we're not going to do that and creep the mission, because that can sink the ship a lot of times. We also decided early on that we wanted to keep some of our money in the bank, so that we didn't have to make decisions based on cash flow, and that we could really make the decisions that would be the most healthy decisions for our long-term success.
So you survived some turbulent financial markets in that 10-year history. What do you see as the biggest challenges going forward for the foundation?
I think the biggest challenges going forward are, our society now it's very fast-paced, and particularly, the younger generation, information's very accessible, and they want updated information, and you only have a short period of time for a good impression. And I think it's really pressuring charities to spend more money on social media and website and technology. And I think those were things that traditionally had been looked down upon by donors, that there's always charities have to be so lean, which is true, and we all have to be good stewards of the donations that come in. But I think there has been a big switch to now where there's a little more forgiveness in charities to spend money to invest in themselves and their futures. And there was a great letter to the Donors of America from the Better Business Bureau, Charity Navigator, and GuideStar. And they were basically saying to the donor community, we know that we judge charities based on this overhead ratio, but sometimes it's a really hard standard for them to live up to, and there's lots of things that you need to look at when deciding to invest in a charity, and results and management and leadership, and they really wanted to correct that misconception that we're trying to make charities be so lean that we're starving them,
right.
and it's more beneficial for them maybe not to be as lean and to invest in their future so that they can continue helping their constituents. So that's really been, I think, a positive change, so that charities can start to investing, especially small to medium size, because it's hard to compete with the larger charities who have bigger budgets for technology and communications and so on.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of return on invested capital should apply to any business. You should be a good steward of what you're doing with the money, both from a standpoint of helping others and investing to be able to help them again. So,
yeah, and at Fred's Footsteps, we're really proud of our numbers, and we keep overhead costs as low as possible. But we also know that we need to invest in our future, because the most important thing is that when 10 years from now, when a child is diagnosed, that they'll have somewhere to turn.
so what is the future? What's it look like for Fred's Footsteps?
I think that the future is, really, really bright. We have a great donor base, a great board of directors, and what we're finding is there's really a new generation of people in this community that want to give to charities and want to be involved in different ways and give their time and their connections and just really look at new entrepreneurial ways to be involved with charities. So I think we're moving forward with trying to really engage those folks as well. And I think one of the other things for us and for a lot of other charities is we have a very generous business community here in Philadelphia, but they're asked by everyone and for money over and over again.
Unfortunately, we have to stop you there, but it's great what you do. We appreciate it. So thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Please join us next week for our guest, Richard Sitchell. He's the Chief Investment Officer at Philadelphia Trust Company. And as always, your money matters. Thank you.